The arrival. The universe was not empty. It was old, crowded, and already claimed. By the time humanity learned how to pierce the veil of faster-than-light travel, the stars belonged to others, species that had risen, fought, conquered, and stagnated for millennia. To them, humanity was nothing more than a child stumbling into a theater already mid-performance, too loud, too eager, and entirely too late. The elders of the galaxy had seen it before, young species rushing outward with wide eyes and fragile ships, dreaming of empire only to be crushed beneath the weight of older powers. The Shakora hegemony, insectoid and coldly pragmatic, dismissed humans as short-lived apes. The Kethraal Dominion, reptilian conquerors who remembered 100,000 years of war, considered them little more than prey wrapped in metal. And the machine consensus, a network of ancient artificial minds spanning whole sectors, categorized them as biological inefficiency soon to collapse under its own chaos. Humanity knew all this. And yet, they pressed forward. The Aurora was one of those bold attempts, an exploration vessel launched from Sol's shipyards with a crew of 200, tasked not with conquest but discovery. Its hull was sleek but scarred, its drive temperamental, its crew fiercely loyal to one another. Captain Elias Wren, a veteran of Earth's defense fleet, had one motto that hung in the command deck like a banner: "We are not here to ask permission. We are here to see what lies beyond." It was during the Aurora's 9th year beyond the frontier that the crew found the ruins. The system was unremarkable, an aging yellow star, 3 barren worlds, a scattering of asteroids. Yet orbiting the second planet was something impossible. Fragments of structures so massive they could not have been built by any known race. Shattered rings of crystal lattices glimmered in starlight, as if whole cities had been carved from diamonds and then broken apart. Vast spires floated in the void, torn from their foundations, each one larger than Earth's tallest skyscrapers. The ruins were not lifeless husks of stone or metal. They radiated a faint, thrumming energy, like the heartbeat of something not quite dead. The crew stared in silence. Humanity had catalogued dozens of ancient relics across the stars, but nothing like this. This was art on a cosmic scale, architecture meant not for mortals but for gods. "We're looking at something predating every empire we've ever known," whispered Dr. Mara Iqbal, the ship's archaeologist, her hands trembling over the console. "If these readings are right, this civilization collapsed before the consensus even awakened." Captain Wren's jaw tightened. "Then we're staring at the bones of legends." Against the advice of protocol, the Aurora descended deeper into the ruins. Shuttles darted between monolithic fragments, scanning, recording, searching. What they found was not technology as they understood it, but something beyond comprehension. Bridges that defied gravity. Energy fields woven like fabric. Halls that seemed to sing when human footsteps echoed through them. The crew walked inside temples carved with symbols that made their heads ache, glyphs shifting between shapes as if alive. And then, in the deepest chamber of what seemed a throne hall, they found her. At first, they thought it was a statue, a figure seated upon a crystalline dais, her body encased in translucent stasis. She was humanoid but not human. Taller, slender, her features impossibly symmetrical, her skin shimmering with a faint iridescence like starlight reflected on water. Her hair, silver black, floated around her as though underwater, and her eyes, closed in slumber, were twin suns hidden beneath fragile lids. The stasis field was still active, though flickering with age. Around her throne lay the remains of guardians, armored figures of alien make, their forms long crumbled into dust, as though they had defended her to their last breath. The chamber pulsed as the humans entered, and the ship system screamed warnings. The field was destabilizing, as if their presence alone awoke something long forgotten. Dr. Iqbal's voice was barely a whisper. This isn't just a tomb. It's a prison." Captain Wren raised his weapon instinctively. "Or a vault," he muttered. "The question is, what were they keeping safe? Or keeping locked away?" The decision was not unanimous. Half the crew demanded they leave, fearful of tampering with forces they could not understand. The other half argued this was the discovery of a millennium, one that could elevate humanity from curiosity to contender in the galactic stage. In the end, Wren made the choice. Humanity had always thrived by daring. They released the field. The chamber exploded with light. Energy cascaded through the ruins, awakening dormant systems across the orbiting structures. The starlight bent, shadows fled, and the throne cracked as the figure's eyes opened. 2 suns burned in that alien face. Every human present felt it, not words, not sound, but the sheer weight of her gaze pressing into their souls. Fear, awe, reverence. The emotions swirled together until none could tell one from the other. The woman rose. Her movements were slow, deliberate, as though dragging herself from eternity. When she spoke, her voice echoed not only in the air but in their minds, carrying the gravity of empires long dead. Who dares break the chains of Seraphis? The name thundered in their thoughts. Seraphis, the last empress of the Celestials. A being of legend, spoken of in alien myths as both creator and destroyer. A god among stars, long vanished, her people eradicated in wars so ancient even the victors had turned to dust. Humanity had freed her. The ruins groaned as dormant systems came alive, reactors flaring after eons of silence. Warning signals spread through nearby space like a beacon. Across the galaxy, ancient powers stirred as their sensors detected the impossible, the return of a goddess thought forever lost. On the Aurora's bridge, alarms blared as transmissions flooded in, scrambled, urgent, hostile. The dominion of Kethra-Al, the machine consensus, the Shakora hegemony. All of them had noticed. Humanity had taken one step too far into forbidden legend. And in doing so, they had not merely uncovered the past. They had awakened it. The pact. The bridge of the Aurora was drowned in red light. Alarms howled through the corridors as data poured across consoles, energy spikes, comms intercepts, long-range sensor warnings. Humanity's gamble had not gone unnoticed. "Captain, we're being scanned from multiple vectors," shouted Ensign Hale, his hands flying across the interface. "Consensus drones, Kethra-Al scouts. Hell, even the hegemony's long-range eyes are locking in on us." Dr. Iqbal's face was pale, her voice hushed as she stared at the figure standing at the center of the chamber. "They know she's awake." Seraphis stood taller than any human, her iridescent skin reflecting the dim light of the bridge. Her golden eyes glowed faintly, not with mere biology but with something older, something that hummed in resonance with the Aurora's very hull. Every step she took made the air tremble. She was regal even in silence, her movements deliberate, her presence undeniable. The crew couldn't help but stare. All wrestled with fear, reverence with suspicion. Some found themselves whispering prayers without realizing it. Others gripped their weapons tighter, as if steel could guard against a being who radiated divinity. Captain Wren broke the silence. "You said your name is Seraphis. What are you? What are these ruins?" Her gaze swept across the crew, and when she spoke, her voice was not sound alone but vibration in the marrow of their bones. "I am the last empress of the Celestials. This place was my throne, my prison, and my tomb. My enemies thought me destroyed. They buried me in silence, that my name would be forgotten." She paused, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Yet you, children of Sol, have undone what was meant to last until eternity. Tell me, why?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Wren's jaw tightened. "Because humanity doesn't walk away from the unknown. Because we don't fear what we don't understand. Maybe we should have left you sleeping, but that's not who we are." Seraphis studied him, her expression unreadable. "Bravery, or arrogance," she mused. "It matters little. The moment you shattered my chains, the galaxy took notice. Already, the vultures stir. They fear me, but they fear you more." "Us?" Dr. Iqbal asked, blinking. "Yes," Seraphis said softly. "The young, reckless species who dared what none of the ancients would. They watched my prison for eons, but none had the courage, or the folly, to break it open. Only you. That makes you dangerous in ways they cannot measure." The words sent a ripple through the bridge. Dangerous. Humanity had always been underestimated, but never before had they been called dangerous by a god. Seraphis raised her hand, and light bloomed in her palm, coalescing into a holographic map of the surrounding sectors. The dominion of Kethra-Al. The machine consensus. The Shakora hegemony. They will converge upon this system. Not for me alone, but to crush you before you can rise. You have pulled fire into your own house. If you wish to survive, you will need me." Murmurs spread among the crew. Some looked eager, others wary. Ren remained still, his eyes locked on hers. "And what do you want in return?" he asked. For the first time, her expression shifted, something between sorrow and steel. "I want vengeance. My people were annihilated. My empire shattered. The galaxy believes me gone. But with your defiance, your hunger, your resilience, we can build something greater. I do not seek to be worshipped, human. I seek to rule again." The word rule struck hard. The crew shifted uncomfortably. Humanity had fought too long for its independence to kneel easily. Ren stepped forward. "If you want our help, then hear this. Humanity doesn't kneel. We fight beside allies, not beneath masters. If this is to work, it won't be as your subjects. It'll be as equals." The air grew heavy. The crew braced themselves, some expecting her wrath. But Seraphis did not flare with anger. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, a faint smile ghosting her lips. "Spoken like true children of fire," she said. "Very well, Captain. A pact, then. I will lend you the wisdom of the Celestials, and in return, you will be my shield until I rise again. Together, we will shake the stars." A silence followed, broken only by the hum of the ship. Ren extended his hand. For a moment, it seemed absurd, offering a handshake to a being who had ruled empires before humanity discovered fire. But Seraphis regarded the gesture, then slowly placed her hand in his. The air crackled as human flesh touched alien divinity. The pact was made. It was not a moment too soon. Hours later, the Aurora's long-range sensors screamed warnings. 3 fleets were inbound: Consensus probes, Kethraral raiding squadrons, and Shakora dreadnoughts. The great powers had moved with terrifying speed, converging on the ruins like predators scenting blood. On the bridge, officers scrambled, fear palpable. The Aurora was fast, but it could not outrun 3 converging armadas. "We won't make it out," Hale said grimly. Ren glanced at Seraphis. "You said you'd lend us wisdom. This would be the time." Her eyes gleamed. "Not wisdom. Power." She raised her hands, and for the first time since her awakening, the crew saw a fraction of what she truly was. Energy rippled outward, flowing through the Aurora's systems like veins of fire. The lights flared, the engines roared with new life, and the ship's very hull seemed to resonate as ancient circuits awakened inside its frame. "Your vessel is crude, but sufficient," she said. "I have woven it with celestial light. Now it is not prey, but predator." As the first wave of Consensus drones broke into the system, the Aurora turned to meet them. Its weapons fired brighter, faster, sharper than ever before, each shot tearing through steel and machine like paper. The drones fell in droves. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but they died quickly as the larger fleets began to close in. Hundreds of ships, engines burning, weapons primed. Seraphis's eyes burned gold. "This is only the beginning. They will not stop. Not now. Not ever. You have chosen a path that cannot be undone. Humanity will either rise, or burn with me." Ren clenched his fists, staring at the storm approaching on every screen. For the first time, he felt the weight of what they had unleashed. Humanity had always fought to be seen. Now, the entire galaxy would see them, whether as equals, rebels, or fools. The pact had been made. The War of Chains was about to begin. The War of Chains. The void between stars was silent, but the silence was an illusion. Death moved through the dark in the form of fleets, Consensus drones, Kethrail warships, Kora dreadnoughts, all burning toward the ruins where the Aurora now waited. Captain Elias Wren stood on the bridge, jaw set, eyes fixed on the tactical displays. Red markers filled the holomap, a storm closing in from 3 sides. Humanity's lone vessel sat at the center, outnumbered 100 to 1. "Consensus drones entering engagement range," reported Ensign Hale, voice taut. "Estimate: 200 units supported by 3 carrier nodes. The Dominion and Hegemony forces are 5 minutes out." Dr. Iqbal swallowed hard. We're surrounded. Even with your upgrades, she said, glancing at Seraphis. We can't fight 3 empires at once. Seraphis stood tall, her eyes glowing faint gold in the dim bridge. You mistake survival for victory, human. This is not your time to destroy them. It is your time to endure. To show the galaxy that humanity cannot be chained. Her voice rolled through the crew like a current. Fear still lingered, but in its place came steel resolve. Ren nodded sharply. Helm, bring us about. Weapons hot. If the galaxy wants a fight, they'll get one. The first wave of drones descended like a cloud of locusts, thousands of metallic wings glinting in starlight. They moved with machine precision, firing lances of plasma and swarms of nanite missiles. The Aurora's shields flared blue as the onslaught struck. Shields holding at 80%, shouted Tactical Officer Jean. Ren gritted his teeth. Return fire. Target their carriers. The Aurora roared in response. Its cannons, once humble human tech, now burned with celestial energy, firing beams that sliced through drones in blinding arcs. Dozens fell with every shot. The ship's rail batteries spat hypervelocity slugs wrapped in golden light, piercing carrier hulls like paper. First carrier node destroyed. Hill cried out. Cheers erupted across the bridge. Humanity had faced the consensus before, but never like this. With Seraphis's touch, their weapons sang. But the machines adapted. Drones split into squadrons, weaving evasive patterns, launching kamikaze runs. Explosions rattled the hull. Sparks cascaded from the ceiling. Shield integrity down to 50. Jean barked. Ren's knuckles whitened on his chair. Hold the line. Seraphis stepped forward, her presence a calm storm amid chaos. She raised her hand, and the ship seemed to breathe. Energy pulsed through its veins, shields flaring brighter, weapons cycling faster. I will not fight for you humans, she said, her voice low but unshakable. But I will fight with you. The crew felt it, power threading through their vessel, their hands steadier, their aim sharper. They were no longer a single ship. They were a blade forged by Godfire. The second carrier fell. The third followed, torn apart by a rail slug that detonated its core. The surviving drones scattered, their control severed. But there was no time to celebrate. Dominion fleet incoming, Hale warned, his voice breaking. 30 war cruisers, supported by assault frigates. The holomap bloomed red once more. The Kethrail ships emerged from warp in a blaze of green light. Their hulls were jagged, reptilian, bristling with cannons. As soon as they arrived, they fired. A barrage of plasma bolts that turned the void into fire. The Aurora dove between volleys, shields screaming. Hull plating buckled, alarms shrieked. Direct hit to starboard. We've lost 2 turrets. Jean reported. Ren slammed his fist on the armrest. Return fire, damn it. The ship answered, lashing out with celestial-enhanced beams. A Dominion frigate erupted in flame, its hull peeling apart. Another lost half its engines, spinning helplessly into the dark. But the Kethrail were predators born of endless war. For every ship destroyed, 10 pressed closer. They launched boarding pods, jagged claws of metal latching onto the Aurora's hull. Breach in cargo bay 2. Came the cry over comms. Gunfire thundered through the corridors as Dominion warriors, hulking reptilian brutes clad in scaled armor, stormed aboard. Human marines met them with rifles blazing, the ship's narrow corridors becoming slaughterhouses. Blood slicked the steel floors, human and alien alike. Captain Ren's voice boomed over the intercom. This is our ship. They want it. They'll choke on every deck. The crew fought like demons. Outnumbered, outmatched, they held line after line, driven not by orders but by sheer refusal to yield. Dr. Iqbal, who had never held a rifle before, found herself firing side by side with hardened soldiers, her hands shaking but her aim true. We're not prey, she whispered with each shot. We're not prey. On the bridge, Seraphis watched silently as the humans bled for their ship. For a moment, sorrow crossed her radiant face. She had seen this before. Mortal races flung against powers they could not comprehend, their courage drowned in futility. But this time was different. This time they fought not for her, but with her. She placed her hand on the control console, golden light flooding the system. Across the ship, Marines felt their limbs surge with strength, their wounds knit faster, their eyes sharpen. The Aurora's hull shimmered, repairing fractures, its weapons flaring with renewed fury. The Dominion warriors faltered. For the first time in generations, predators knew fear. Push them back, Ren roared. And humanity did. Then the third shadow fell. The hegemony has arrived, Hale whispered, voice nearly breaking. The Cora dreadnought emerged from warp like a leviathan, dwarfing every other ship. Its surface was a writhing mass of chitin and metal, alive and mechanical all at once. It opened fire immediately, a beam of energy so vast it split an asteroid in two before crashing against the Aurora's shields. The ship screamed. Every console flared red. Shields plummeted to 20%. We can't take another hit like that, Gin shouted. Ren's mind raced. They were a single ship, battered, bleeding, standing against 3 empires. Logic said this was the end. But humanity had never been logical when cornered. He turned to Seraphis. If you've got anything left, now's the time. Her eyes burned brighter than ever, her voice a vow that shook the air. Then let the galaxy remember why they feared my name. She raised both arms, and the ruins around them ignited. The shattered citadels, dormant for millennia, flared to life, beams of celestial energy lancing outward. The battlefield lit up with fire older than stars. Consensus drones vaporized. Dominion warcruisers split apart. Even the Cora dreadnought reeled as its chitinous armor cracked under the storm. The crew stared in awe. Humanity had unleashed not just a relic, but a goddess of war. Ren clenched his fist. All ships, all powers, all empires, they think we're prey. He bared his teeth in a grin. Let's prove them wrong. And as the Aurora surged forward, blazing with human grit and celestial fire, the War of Chains began. The rise of the Empress. The battlefield was a graveyard of fire. Wreckage drifted across the void. Consensus drones shattered into scrap, Dominion warcruisers broken into drifting husks, and Cora dreadnought fragments burning like dying suns. The ruins of the Celestials, once silent for eons, glowed with living power again, their spires casting golden light across the void as if announcing to the galaxy, the Empress has returned. On the bridge of the Aurora, silence reigned. The crew stared at the holomap, blinking in disbelief at the carnage they had somehow survived. The ship itself groaned, battered and bleeding, its hull scarred, its decks lined with bodies. But it was alive. They were alive. Against 3 ancient empires, 1 human vessel had endured. Captain Elias Wren stood at the center of it all. His face carved with exhaustion but his eyes alight with fire. Report. Ensign Hale's voice was hoarse. Shields gone. Weapons nearly spent. Life support holding by a thread. Casualties, heavy, sir. He paused, then added, "But we won." The words felt impossible, yet they were true. Dr. Iqbal sat slumped at her station, blood streaked across her cheek, her hands trembling. "We didn't just win," she whispered. "We made history. The whole galaxy saw what happened here. They'll never look at humanity the same way again." All eyes turned to Seraphis. She stood tall and unbroken, her golden gaze steady. Where humans looked ragged and mortal, she looked eternal, her presence unshaken by the storm they had just weathered. Yet, for the first time since her awakening, she inclined her head ever so slightly, as though acknowledging the cost humanity had paid. "You have done what no other dared," she said softly. "You stood in the teeth of 3 powers and did not yield. My people fell because they had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. But you," her voice deepened, carrying the weight of prophecy, "you remind the stars that mortals can defy eternity itself." Ren straightened, squaring his shoulders despite the ache in his bones. "We're not gods, Seraphis. We're human. We fight because we don't know how to do anything else. But if we fight with you, it won't be as pawns. It'll be as partners." Her gaze met his. In that moment, golden fire and human defiance forged something unbreakable. The galaxy did not remain silent. Within days, transmissions flooded every comms channel. Some were threats, some were fearful denials, some were desperate offers for negotiation. Alien empires who had dismissed humanity as insects now spoke of them with trembling voices. The machine consensus recalculated its models of galactic stability and declared a new variable: the human celestial pact. The Dominion of Kethrael called humanity star-blooded heretics and vowed vengeance. The Sichkora hegemony, more pragmatic, sent envoys cloaked in veiled offers of alliance. But it was not fear of Seraphis alone that shook them. It was fear of humanity, the species reckless enough to break open a god's prison, stubborn enough to survive when crushed beneath impossible odds, and defiant enough to call an empress their equal. On Earth, when the news reached Sol, the reaction was seismic. Governments argued, militaries panicked, religions split between worship and condemnation. But among the people, a different fire took hold. For the first time, humanity wasn't the junior species scrambling for scraps at the galactic table. They were something new, something more. In the ruins where the battle had been fought, Seraphis convened her first council, not of alien vassals or ancient nobles, but of humans. The Aurora's surviving officers stood before her, weary yet unbroken. "These halls," Seraphis said, her voice echoing through the crystal chamber, "once belonged to my people. They are gone. But their spirit need not be. With your defiance, I will forge a new empire, not upon chains but upon fire. A pact between celestial and human. A throne shared not by bloodline but by will." Some of the crew bowed instinctively. Others remained stiff, still untrusting of words like throne and empire. Ren stood unmoving, his arms crossed, his voice steady. "If you want us with you, then remember this. Humanity doesn't kneel. We'll follow if you lead, we'll fight if you fight, but we won't serve. That's the price of our pact." Seraphis studied him in silence. Then, slowly, she lowered herself to one knee. Gasps rippled through the chamber. To see a goddess bow was a sight none could forget. "I do not ask you to serve," she said, her golden eyes unwavering. "I ask you to rise with me." The moment burned itself into history. Humanity did not kneel to a god knelt to humanity. The months that followed reshaped the stars. The ruins of the Celestials became the foundation of a new stronghold, rebuilt with human engineering fused with Seraphis's ancient knowledge. The Aurora returned to Sol not as a battered exploration vessel, but as a symbol, a ship that had faced empires and lived. Recruitment swelled, industries roared, and for the first time, humanity looked outward not with fear of conquest, but with ambition to shape destiny. Alien powers debated, plotted, schemed. Some prepared for war. Others sought uneasy diplomacy. But all of them now spoke the same truth. Humanity was no longer a child among stars. They were the chosen allies of an empress reborn. One night, aboard the new fortress being built around the ruins, Captain Wren found Seraphis standing alone on a balcony, gazing at the stars. "You don't sleep," he said quietly. "I dream with open eyes," she replied, her voice softer than he had ever heard. "I dream of what is to come. My enemies thought they had buried me. But now, with you, I will rise higher than before. Not as a goddess alone, but as something greater." Wren leaned on the railing beside her. "And what's that?" Her eyes glowed faintly as she turned to him. "A legend. Not mine alone. Ours." They stood in silence, gazing out at the void. Stars that had once seemed impossibly distant now felt within reach. For in the rise of the Alien Empress, humanity had not only found an ally. They had found their place among the gods.